Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. Now, if you are new here, welcome. It's always so lovely to have new listeners to the show. And for the fans, the regulars who always keep on coming back, man, you are the real ones. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And just a reminder that if you want to stay tuned for the latest episodes, make sure that you follow and you hit notify and subscribe on wherever else you listen to your podcast, be it Spotify, be it Apple Podcasts, so that you know when a new episode releases. So subscribe and be up to date. Also, remember that you can follow the show on various social media platforms. We are on Twitter and Instagram at The Root of the Sci Pod. We are also on Facebook and LinkedIn at The Root of the Science Podcast. Make sure that you follow us and like there. You can also follow us on TikTok. So we're almost basically there and working towards YouTube as well, because people have asked and I'm a girl who likes to deliver. Okay. Also, please make sure that you also support the show. There is a PayPal link in the description box. So make sure that you click on it and you donate in making the show work. It would be highly appreciated. Now, let's get into today's episode. My guest today is Thando Mazomba. She is from South Africa and currently based in Cape Town. Thando is a master's graduate of physical oceanography, an All-Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassador, a marine manager, and the co-founder and co-director of the Beach Co-op. In this episode, we hear about her academic journey in the marine and environmental space, then discusses the importance of transformation and representation in the marine space, which influenced her involvement in the All-Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassador for South Africa. Thando also discusses the work that she does as the co-founder and co-director of the Beach Co-op, discusses the human-centered work and how it's so important for the local community. Tune in as we hear about all of this and, of course, so much more. Let's go. Hi, Thando. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Anne. Thank you so much for having me today.
It is such a great pleasure to have you on the show and for the audience as well as myself to get to know more about you. So let's get this ball rolling. First things first, who is Thando? Where are you originally from? Where are you currently based? And just briefly, what do you do?
So Thando Mazomba is, I'm 28 years old, and I'm originally from the Eastern Cape in South Africa, from a town called East London, or a city called East London. But actually my formative and first half of my adolescent years, I grew up in a tiny town called Ikonga, like King William's Town. And then like when I started high school, I moved to East London, but my parents are still there. So East London is home for me. And I am a master's graduate of physical oceanography. I will say that my journey in science hasn't been always oceanography. I did a triple major in oceanography, but also marine biology and environmental sciences. My second degree was in marine biology. So I've been jumping around the marine space and environmental space quite a bit, and I've absolutely loved it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I can't wait for you to get into more detail and for us to, take a deep dive into your journey. See that?
I hear you, girl. I got you.
Oh, man, that was so cheesy. But I will take it. So first, can you just tell us, before we get into everything that you do, as I read through your passions, right, you spoke that you have a number of them. You are a person who loves nature, which I think is a bit obvious given that you are out and about in the ocean. You love fashion, you love reading, you love yoga, you love people as a whole. So this, when people think of passions, they think it's usually limited to like one or two, but for you, it's very multifaceted, right? Can you tell us briefly why all these different like facets of your life are important to you being, more than just a scientist?
Yeah, I've always been someone who has had multiple interests, like as you said, like this nature, fashion. But even when I was younger, I played multiple sports. And then eventually, I focused on hockey, of which I actually used to play a lot. Like I used to play like regional. I even got like selected for SA squads. And a lot of people don't know that I was the first Black captain at UCT for the first team women's when I was playing.
Wow.
I think, so when I played for 5 years at UCT and in my last 2 years of being a senior, I was the first Black captain to ever captain a first team side. And then I was obviously doing my like degree in science. And so I've always like celebrated these multiple aspects of myself, because I think it's important, not just for me, but to allow myself to celebrate the diversity of other people. And I think as scientists, we're often labeled, as a specific type of person. But I've met many a scientist, and just by sitting over drinks at conferences or dinners or workshops, it's so cool to learn about people's loves of life, including their sciences. Like fashion, for instance. My mom used to be a fashion designer, and I have fond memories of my sister and I like helping her pick up her straight pins from the carpet. She used to work in one of our spare rooms, and she'd pay us like R2 or something. And so fashion for me is an important part of my expression. It's probably my most creative side. And I love that it's very much connected to my history with my mom. I'm also like a yoga instructor. I recently got qualified as a yoga instructor. And so, I think that it allows me to be more robust as a human being, but also, again, like I said, to connect with so many different types of people in their own interests. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm connecting with people who only do yoga or only like reading. It's just so lovely to not assume. I think that like with the curiosity I have within myself and with other people, it allows me to not assume so easily. And we know even in science, assumption is probably the worst thing we can do. We're there to gather information. Yeah. And so in my celebration of people and like their multiple levels and their multiple nuances, I really hope to be a vessel of love and connection, as a scientist on my platforms that I have, that I'm lucky to have, to be humbly curious. But, it starts with like observing and listening. And I think that's what it's also taught me, is that, when you don't assume and then you start to engage with people and you ask them about other stuff in their lives, you get to listen and you get to observe and engage, and then you act, right? You act with intention, and you move with intention. So I think that's why, if I had to be just maybe short about it, is that it really has allowed me to engage with people on many different levels.
I love that. I love that so much, because like you said, that being able to engage with various different types of people, you grow as a person, you evolve. Because I think having only, which is not necessarily a bad thing, so I'm not like, calling out anyone, but only having like one sort of friendship type group or people who you engage with kind of limits your thinking. But like you said, you are like the first the first Black female hockey coach at UCT. That's huge. So you were probably in a different space that taught you a lot of things that obviously played a very important role in your life. The people who you engage with in yoga, the people who you engage with in the scientific space purely. I think it's such a beautiful blend, and it makes you, like you said, it makes you such a more rounded human being. And I wish more people were more open to have all of to tap into all of those different spaces and have a lot of various different friendship groups. And also, I mean, let's be honest, if we had to be frank about it, you also have a lot of networks in various different spaces.
Yeah. And I think that, and like even meeting you, like I'm so grateful to Sandra for connecting us and for her to tell me to reach out to you to chat. It's just this constant expansion. And when I say expansion, it's expansion of myself as a human, like network and, friendship and colleagues, but it's also an expansion of community. And, like I am truly so grateful to be sitting with you today and chatting, because I know that like I'm excited to watch you grow in your career, and so grateful for the Root of the Science podcast, which is connecting so many different scientists across the platforms. So, you're doing that vessel, and I just want to thank you as well for doing that work and opening up that space for us. Well, when I say us, I just mean everyone in general. Humanity.
Thank you.
I'm kidding.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Oh man, no, thank you so much, Thando. You're gonna make me blush, and this interview is not even about me, but I really appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words, and shout out to Sandra Poma. I appreciate you, and we love you. So back to you now.
Fine.
Back to you. You spoke about how your mom was a fashion designer, and you briefly tapped about your early childhood, right? So I just want us to pull that thread a little bit further. How was young Thando, right? You were exposed to your mom being a fashion designer, etc. But what did you want to be? Did you always know that, okay, fine, being a scientist is the route that I would like to take when I grow up? Or was this one of those things that kind of, like happened to some people? It just happened. So what is your story?
Oh yeah, I think that so I spoke about my mom a little bit. My dad, we joke around. My mom and I always call him a hustler. He's done so many different things and continues to avoid retirement and start other things. And so young Thando also wanted to be a businesswoman, because I saw my dad starting things up. I mean, I think as people of color, we've watched our parents just hustle through life and make things work for us. And it's so inspiring. And I remember speaking or being on the mentee side of, and I never want to forget her. She should never be forgotten. The late Mdoni Nkunu, and she always said she also watched her parents, hustle, and it's a really big part of her being as a scientist is to hustle through it. And I think as people of color, we can really resonate with that. And so, I haven't started any businesses. They're all in my mind and dreaming. But
that's where it starts.
That's where it starts. Young Thando wanted to be a businesswoman, still does. But, with my sports and stuff, I used to on Sundays, I remember after coming home from church and having lunch with the family, I'd sit down and watch National Geographic until the soccer came on. And then I'd watch the soccer, and then I'd go back to National Geographic. So young Thando was always curious, as I said, in so many different things. I'd help my dad out with whatever he was doing, help my mom out with her stuff, watch soccer, watch Nat Geo. And I think it was just whatever got me curious, I was really interested in. And also, I wanted to be a pilot. That I think in my next life, I'm definitely still going to be a pilot. I'm not going to lie about that. And so when I started had to get serious about my career, my dad was like, what do you want to do? And I said, aviation. And he was like, no, we don't have money for that. And I was like, fair, it's a lot of money. Okay, let me skip through and see what else. And so then I started, I applied for physiotherapy because, a lot of sport was in my life, and then environmental sciences because, I just loved being outside. Nat Geo had a really big influence in that. I remember I only had two things on my bucket list in my life ever, and one of them was to go to Antarctica as a professional person. and not just because I had the bucks to do so. And I'm lucky to say that 2 years ago I was able to go there.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And then, I got accepted for both. I got accepted for both physio and the environmental stuff, which didn't make my life any easier. But I went with the environment stuff because it was just calling to me. I figured someone would pay me to be outside. I don't know how, but they would. And so I went with that. And and I haven't looked back. I think that when I registered at UCT, particularly for your BSc, you have 2 majors. So I picked environmental, and then I was like, well, someone's going to pay me to be on the water, because my family now used to go to the beach every now and again. On Sundays as well was one of our little habits. And in my teenage years, my best friend and I, for holidays, we just used to sit at the beach and get burnt every single day. So the water, that relationship started there. So I figured someone would pay me for that. And then oceanography sort of flirted its way into that. And I was like, why not? And that's how I ended up where I am. And I think that what I love about the sciences is just that it allows me to continue to be curious. And I'm just really happy about that.
Wow, what a story. What a story of your early influences. I like how you pay homage to all the people who played an important part, be it your dad or the late Ndoni, and even the experiences of you loving the beach, etc. So into your journey of getting into this field. So, when I speak to people who are involved in the environmental sciences, number one, let's start there, but more specifically, things that involve the ocean or marine science, I always go what? It's so new to me. And I'm sure, I'm like, how did you even know about this? And I assume you get this a lot, right? I'm not saying that we as people of color, for example, because, and more especially rather, let me add that a Black person. So if it's I'm not saying as Black people never went to the beach and stuff, but it's just not something you see every day, somebody actually being involved in this field. So I know you are All Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassador for South Africa. So I'm sure when people ask you all of this stuff, I'm sure this part of you comes in handy when you try and explain your love and your passion for the ocean. So can you tell us more about your role and also how it all came about?
Yeah. You're right. We are a minority as Black people, as Black women in the marine space. And sure, I just wish more of us. That's all I want. I just want more of us to be in this space because it's needed. First of all, so the transformation in the marine space is so desperate. It's So when I do my talks and stuff to young kids, especially, I'm like, please come, please, we need you so badly. And I think that so when I was in my first year of master's or first year, because Sandra, again, thank you, Sandra, she was of the former cohort of the All Atlantic Youth Ambassadorship for South Africa. And my then head of department, Isabel Ansel, actually came up to me, and I hadn't heard of this ambassadorship. And she said, you have to apply. We need you there. And because I think that she has an understanding of my work as a scientist and my work as someone who appreciates representation, I want to build my platforms for that objective, is to purely be hey, look at me, I look like you, come do this thing, because you are not only as a form of activism, but because you have the capabilities, right? Don't look at what the majority is telling you that you can't because of what you look like or you don't look like. And I think that I'm lucky in the space that I'll say that I'm lucky, and I'll name my privilege in that space as well. And I actually, if I had to take a step back and say that I'm someone who needs to understand how I fit into things. And so I have to name my financial privilege growing up compared to the majority of Black people in this country.
Yeah.
And my, even like my religious, South Africa being a so-called Christian country, I have privileges as a Black woman and I need to name them. And I understand that a lot of people don't have these privileges and therefore aren't exposed to these opportunities. But my hope is that like my work in the ambassadorship, so we're doing a lot and I'll touch on them right now, is that I can create a platform which speaks for people who don't have these voices, who are minoritized, but also can feel encouraged to do the same as me, if not similar, in different spaces, right? And I think that's what I've been comfortable in these spaces for multiple reasons. I am one type of person who doesn't mind discomfort. I like breaking barriers. I like being the minority because I like saying things that need to be said. So I'm really honored to be in this space on an international platform that allows me to speak what needs to be said. And so, in the ambassadorship, this particular 2 years that we've been ambassadors for South Africa, it's myself and there's two others, is Marissa Brink and Kirsten Petzer, been involved in local and both international campaigns. Some of our local campaigns include a 1-year program where we've been allowing learners from under-resourced communities and giving them support to come and visit the aquarium, not only to visit the aquarium, but to come behind the scenes to learn from the different careers in the marine space. Because, they're involved with SAON. There's a guy, Thomas Mtonsi, who does amazing work with these kids in the classrooms. And what I've realized is that as much as you teach kids theoretically what is going on in the ocean, like because of their financial lack of resources, they will never be able to experience these things tangibly. And I feel like tangible experiences are what, our bodies remember, and then we can keep these experiences going forward. And so it's called Expanding Horizons. Every month we bring 3 or 4 learners in the age groups of 16 to 18, where they've learned about like the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic. And then we bring them to the aquarium to learn more about it and have these tangible experiences through the turtle rehabilitation program. So that's been a really amazing program. And I've been able to learn from the learners of these schools about what they think about marine sciences and what they think about us as scientists. And I've gotten some really interesting answers, which I take back to reflect on myself. And and I hope that they've learned a lot as well, and hopefully expanded their horizons. It doesn't matter if they end up in marine sciences or not. It's more about the fact that they know that they have these opportunities because they are capable human beings. And by being connected to us, they can, they always have my WhatsApp number to call and ask if I can help them with an application.
Oh, wow.
It's just about expanding their horizons and knowing that they're not limited because of their circumstances, that now that they have access to us, people who have privilege and access to other resources, that their opportunities are expanding, right? And so, we've also written a booklet series, which is really exciting. Okay. We've published the first volume. It's called Bridging the Ocean. That's the name of the series. The first volume is about oceanic cycles, so like the carbon cycle, the biological pump, the ocean cycle, like the water cycle. The second booklet is in the works with our illustrator right now. He actually came back with us with draft illustrations. It's about different types of pollution in the ocean and how we can contribute to solving them if possible. The third one is around food security in society. So what does it mean to be a food secure region or a region that doesn't have food security? What does it mean to have inequitable distribution of resources? Because we always chat about like, we want a healthy ocean, we want a resilient ocean, but it doesn't matter if this resilient and healthy ocean is not serving everyone equally. Right? Like, it doesn't matter at that point. And then, attending a lot of conferences, speaking to the things like of ocean literacy, speaking to our own skills, like Marissa is in the microbiome space. And so, that's what this platform has allowed me to do personally. And we're coming to a close at the end of the year. But the networking again and the projects that have come from it have been absolutely incredible.
It sounds like it, and such important work. It's like I think even though, like you said, you're coming to the end of it, I'm sure you've impacted so many people, and just by you planting those little seeds, you've now like created this chain of more people to enter into the space, which they didn't even know was possible. And as we quoting the late Ndoni, I remember one of the most important things that she always said was that it's very hard to aspire for something that you don't know exists. So I think this work, and like you said, like engaging with the learners at schools, for example, they didn't even know like this exists. So how can somebody like aspire to get into a space that they didn't know exists? So I think you engaging and interacting, or the various ways that you're doing it, or through the books, actually allow somebody to be like, there's somebody who does this and they look like me. Oh my goodness, that means it's possible. So kudos to you and the work that you're doing, and other two ladies who are ambassadors. I think this is such important work, and I know that this is probably gonna catapult into so many other things, like you said, from the networks and the other projects that you've been doing. It's only natural for then us to talk about the other work that you're actually involved with. You are a very busy woman. You are the co-founder and the co-director at the Beach Co-op, which involves the cleanups of beaches that are engaging with communities to create spaces of learning. So we touched briefly on, why a little bit in the other question, but why is this type of work, why is beach cleanups so important as a further expansion of Thando and the work that you do in the ocean space?
Wow, yeah, the journey with the Beach Co-op has been very, very humbling. I've learned so much, and I continue to learn a lot, and I continue to be called to action, to be honest, every time that I'm engaging in this way. And so, as you've said, our work at the Beach Co-op is to contribute to communities that care, not only for the marine environment, but for one another, because through cleanups, I think we've seen time and time again how cleanups are structured around, the blue flag beaches, which are, the so-called pristine beaches, the predominantly white beaches. And so you have to ask yourself when you're looking at these, when I spoke about it in the previous conversation about the injustices around the ocean space, is that our people, our communities that we see today are manifestations of forced removals and historical injustices. And there's this active disremembering. And I was brought to light about this phrase of active disremembering, because you're not just forgetting, you are actively calling in yourself to not remember the injustices. And we see this in our beaches which are predominantly people of color, where they're forgotten. There aren't any beach cleanups there. There aren't any conversations around the river systems going into the ocean and what that means. And as the Beach Co-op, we're not there to teach, we're there to engage, because we know that our people, again, have always been intrinsically linked to the environment. And I always remind people of the one saying that I love, which is our ancestors, our people, our history says to us that the wealth of our community is a direct reflection of the health of our surrounding environment. This is what we know as people of color. We've always known this, but because of political instances, because of historical injustices, we've lost that ability, or rather our physical ability to connect with nature, right? And so you look at public services that are not removing litter, that are not removing waste adequately in socioeconomic disadvantaged communities. And so our work is to actively remember these spaces as our communities and continue this conversation into these spaces. Yesterday, we were doing a cleanup at Monwabisi Beach, which is along False Bay here, which is such an interesting space because I live in Muizenberg. So on one side we have Monwabisi, which is a predominantly a black beach, and then on the other side of me I have like, you know, Muizenberg or Cork Bay, which is a predominantly white space. And we were just saying as the Beach Co-op team how much we thoroughly enjoy being at Monwabisi because it's just such a powerful space. I mean, yesterday there was a taxi association meeting that was held the whole morning there, and I was chatting to some of the guys there. There were spiritual guides who were conducting ceremonies on the beach or praying for their families. There was a surfing community there. There was lifeguard training, which I really want to try find out if I can join that team.
Wow.
Just to train. But it is such a powerful beach, and I'm so engaged around the water space. And we were there with a couple of children from a woman who runs a kitchen and an after-school program. And this is why it's important. And we do this through cleanups, right? We do it through cleanups, but it's more than just a cleanup. We engage, we learn from one another. It's not a space where we just drop in. We're like, yeah, we're cleaning your beach and you know that, and you guys should take care of your beaches better. And actually now, you know, we're chatting in, you know, November, and last year, there was a lot of posts floating around on like Boxing Day last year, December, of people that I knew, people who were white that I knew and in the community, who were like, you know, it's so gross how there's so much litter after Boxing Day in the, you know, like maybe like the Cork Bay tidal pool, which is normally predominantly white, but during a Christmas time, a lot of people of color come through, then it's full and it's lots of families. And I remember our friends really chatting about it on social media and responding to these posts around how it is a direct attack to people of color because you are associating now your disdain for you know these sweet packets and whatever people were eating through people of color, and you're associating that. But what you're forgetting is that that's not the full story, because at the Beach Co-op, again, we have a conversation about the privilege to care. If you have the privilege to have public services come and pick up your litter, if you have the privilege to recycle, if you have the privilege to buy whatever you need to buy to be more eco-friendly, that is in itself a manifestation of historical injustices. So you have no place to say that other people are, you know, gross or disgusting because they can't take care of their own litter when they're around spaces, because that lived experience is vastly different. And so I just remembered it now because it's coming towards the end of that year and that time is coming up again. And this is the work that we engage with at the Beach Co-op, is that we hope to bring about communities of care, not just in the spaces of color, but in that transracial spaces. Like, can you look at yourself and see how you exist in the ocean space in relation to one another? And can you care? Can you bring a sense of care into the space? And it doesn't have to just be about conservation. It doesn't have to be just about the sciences, you know? So that's why it's important for me. This is why the Beach Co-op work is so important and always humbling and always calling me to reflect on myself as well.
I love this. Like, there were so many like things that I never even thought about. But I think the most important part, which I love about the work that you're doing at the Beach Co-op, it's so human-centered. It's so human-centered, and I love that. And you can hear it when you talk about all the different aspects about it. Like, it's not just, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but sometimes we focus more on like cleaning the ocean, but not the people who are near the ocean. Like, and I like what you said, like, why is the ocean actually dirty in these areas? And it's more of a societal problem than an environmental one. It's a societal problem that then becomes an environmental problem. So I really, really love this work, that it's so human-centered, because it starts there. And I also love how you said that it's not just you coming in there and saying, do this, do that, and you should do better, which is kind of condescending. And sometimes, yeah, because I mean, sometimes we as scientists or organizations, we think we are doing a really good thing, which we are, but the approach sometimes is it's a little bit condescending. But like the way that you say that you come in there and saying, hey, let us work together, let us engage, let us see, let us have conversation, let us understand, and let it be a very nuanced, action based. So I absolutely love the work that you do, and also I love your passion about how you call people out on social media, because yeah, like you say, it's a place of privilege. Like, how dare you say that?
People,
I love
we're
that.
disappointing. I'm not going to exclude myself from that. I'm just saying people in general can be quite disappointing.
We are, but I think it's very important, because I never actually thought about that either, because sometimes you go in there like, oh no, these places are not well kept after, but like exactly like you said, but do they get the same facilities, I mean the same services rather, as the places which are pristine and which are clean, and so it's not that the people they want to live in filth, but sometimes it's like by force they are forced to live in the filth, or live in the and I say this filth very like inverted commas, and dirt in very inverted commas. But wow, this is such an interesting take, and I love this, and I hope with somebody else who's listening, it can be applied in various other different works of environmental work, not only with the oceans, but I don't know, with other people who do things with trees or with I don't know, other things, because like you said, there's a societal link to it. And I think that's why for me, I love science, and I love the direction which scientists are going into. We are bringing in the science and the society when we are trying to create a solution or the way forward or the action, which is absolutely amazing. So kudos to you and the work that you do.
Thank you.
As we, start going off, like I can talk to you forever, but time.
Time's not our friend.
Time's not our friend. But Thando, you're a very busy bee. Like you do this ambassadorship. You work as well, which we haven't really got into it. But you're also telling me how you travel in and out, and we were speaking obviously off air about the mental toll that being this very busybody and activist actually takes on you as a person. And mental health is such an important topic on the show, and I always love to hear how people sort of manage. So for you, in your works, because it sounds like you've been a busy bee from beginning when you were even a student, like, doing hockey, doing all of these other things. So how do you find that balance in your life in terms of taking care of you holistically? Like, you take care of the ocean, we get it, you take care of the other people, but how do you take care of Thando in a holistic aspect?
And I'll be honest. It's a tough question, because I think that what I've learned most recently is that balance is the biggest farce on earth. It is just the unattainable unicorn in another universe. And and since learning that, I've been able to be so much more gentle on myself, because I think I'm such a go-getter. I have to do everything at 100%. I just realized that doing that is completely unsustainable to my body, physically and mentally, spiritually. It's not possible. And so I found that what helps me, and I'm sure in many other people's busy schedules, is that balance is something that shifts. That framework sort of shifts. So I find myself, if I am doing something maybe for 6 months, I'm like, okay, I know it's going to be really intense, and maybe I'm not going to eat right properly, like all of those 6 months, or maybe I'm not going to find time to do my yoga the way that I've been doing it for the next 6 months, because by committing to this thing, something has to fall away. You know, my friend and I always speak about, I don't know if I'm going to explain it properly, but you know, at the circus, when you get those people who are spinning saucers on sticks.
Yeah.
And then, you know, then they always take another one, and then eventually they're balancing, like, I don't know, 7 different saucers on their nose and their shoulder and their hand and the forehead. And then if you add one more, all of those things, all of them fall apart. All of them fall and break on the floor. It's not just one. And so I've experienced that a lot. I've experienced breakdowns. I've experienced burnout. I've experienced myself navigating burnout. That was the craziest thing I did last year, is that I continue to work through my burnout. And it is such an unhealthy habit that I never want to repeat again, ever in my life. It takes away so much as a person, and it takes so much time to rebuild from that space. And so I guess I haven't answered your question, because I'm just naming all the ways that I haven't.
Sure. No, I'm busy sitting there like you are speaking to the choir. Like, are you in my brain? But anyway, carry on.
Yeah. And so I think, like, to be honest, like, honesty is also a part of it. Like, I think that it was important for me to name that I haven't found balance, and I haven't found ways to take care of myself throughout all of this heaviness, in the hopes that people also don't feel so guilty if they haven't figured it out as well, right? Like, we're so busy as human beings wherever we are, and this world continues to move faster every single day. It demands of us more every single day. So I think just being more gentle on self, and my friend has also been reminding me that, like, look, if you miss a deadline and the world hasn't fallen apart after you've missed that deadline, guess what? You're fine. You're actually okay. And I was like, you're right. And sometimes we think that our lives will just, we'll get fired, we'll lose our salary, our friends will judge us and abandon us if we miss a deadline, or if we don't show up as the same bubbly self. And so I think it's a constant evolution. I think mental health is something that you can't apply as a blanket sort of thing. I think it requires maturity to approach it in the way that it needs to be approached at that specific time. So if you feel that you need, I don't know, like, if I feel like I need to be very social in order to forget about my work, I will then step into being with my friends a lot. And then step away when I feel like it's filled me up, or find a balance. If I feel like, it's been funny because in the last month, I actually haven't been diving at home at all. I've been in and out of the country, but I've been so fragile mentally that I haven't been able to go to the ocean, which is usually a place of healing for me. And there's been the immense amount of fear of going into the ocean, because it will call me to face my anxiety. And today yesterday after the Monwabisi cleanup, I went into the ocean there with my colleagues and friends, and it was such a release. And it's, the ocean for me has always been a place of healing, always been a place of non-judgment. It's always been a place of pure joy and peace, like just that unapologetic kind of peace that doesn't require anything of you, but just to be you, just to be self as you are. I appreciate the ocean in that space. And then today I went diving at home for the first time in like over a month, and it continues. So I think that, like, maybe that is my way of finding balance and just bringing myself closer to self again and grounding myself. And that's possibly why I love the ocean so much, is that I've never needed to be anything else but myself when I'm in the ocean.
Wow.
When I'm feeling like if I've got too much ego and I'm like pushing too hard, she humbles me. Like when I'm in the ocean, she's like, girl, no.
Stop.
Stop. I'm like, yes, you're right. Or if I sometimes go diving and I'll scream underwater from just pure anger, and she holds that space. She holds that scream for me, and then I'm able to, come up out of the water feeling lighter because of that. So without telling people just to go to the ocean just because I'm an ocean person. I think that finding that space that allows you to be yourself without needing to explain yourself, be it your friends, your family, be it walking, be it reading, do that where it's just about you and only you.
And well, first of all, I'd like to say you've painted such a beautiful, vivid picture about the ocean that I've never had. It also just makes you wish I could dive and scream underwater because that sounds so freeing. Like you painted such a vivid picture for me. And I was like, and I'm sure other people who are listening are like, damn, I wish I could do that. But like you said, that it's different for every single one of us. We all have our thing that gives us that peace, that centers us, that, like you said, that kind of holds that space for you to be you. And I also loved how honest you said, how honest you were about the balance thing, because, with this, we are becoming more and more aware of the mental health and taking care of it. And, the buzzword is very strike a balance, and it's important, please. Like, it's very important. But like you said, it's sometimes hard to strike that balance depend on different seasons because different times require different parts of you. And like you said, that there's going to be maybe 6 weeks where you won't be able to do your exercises, or you won't be able to go to the beach, or you won't be able to do your yoga, or you won't be able to cook for yourself properly. And those things give you peace. But unfortunately, because life, you kind of have to sacrifice that. But I think once you are able to, you should unapologetically go back and create that space, even if it's ignoring people if needs be, just to center yourself again and to find yourself, because so many people, myself included, have worked through burnout again and again and again and again until it literally destroys us. It destroys us without, and I think the worst part is that it destroys us without even realizing that it's destroying us, because we've made it so normal that we must just continue and continue and continue until eventually you're left to smithereens. So it's a never ending, and I just hope each of us, I think it comes with being more aware, like you said, it comes with a lot of awareness, and, but it's still difficult. It's not always easy. And it's not.
Yeah. And I think when we spoke last week, just briefly, and you had just taken a break, and I said to you, I was like, I'm so inspired. And I think we owe it to our friends and the people that we care for to remind them, also to call them to action, to be like, hey, have you taken a break? I think you should take a break, even if it's just the Friday before the weekend. Please do. And my friends, they call me and they're like, when last did you take a break? Or call me if you need anything, call me. And I do the same. So I think that's also part of it. And you're so right in that we shouldn't make it normal. It should not be normal. And we should absolutely rebel against it being normal as much as we can.
And it's true, but one step at a time. Yes. Thando, we had such a fantastic conversation, and as we are wrapping up about all things that we've spoken about a lot. I'll just love for you to share some, words of wisdom or parting words to inspire somebody, be it about what you do specifically or just generally about life.
Yeah. Parting words are always so difficult.
It's the pressure.
It's the pressure. And I'm also like, why do we have to part?
No, I wish it could take forever.
But thank you so much for the time, I guess. And then people, I think for me that wherever you're working in, whatever field you're working in, even if it's in like specifically in the sciences. I think that we owe it to ourselves to bring the humanness back to this work. I mean, we've spoken about mental health and how much it's, you know, the value of it is diminishing every day with the constant demands of work. And I think that like also in academics, mental health is actually quite it's quite a touchy subject.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know that very well. And so for me, I think that like wherever you're working, please like step into your space of work with love and intention to work with your colleagues, to listen to them, to engage. You know, STEM is STEM. Science is science. It'll, you know, but we also have the ability to transform the space to be more human-centric without, you know, nothing needs to fall away from the research or nothing needs to fall away from the actual objectives or mandate of work. But we can add to it. We can add a level of humanness. We can add a level of genuineness, a level of care. And I think that's, you know, that's my wish. And that's how I'm trying to approach things in my life. And I guess like, I'm just calling on people to do the same so that we can. I think, you know, generally the people that I've met are amazing and doing amazing work, yourself included. And so I'm obviously excited to see what people are doing and to see our multiple facets of STEM grow with these exciting people that are taking up, you know, research roles and policy roles and, you know, just being citizens and doing their part in citizenship. And yeah, I just think that like we can do it from a place of love as well. Like it doesn't have to be, we don't have to pull the place of love away just because we've got work to do and there's stuff to get done. Yeah. So just to be in that, being a vessel of change and just to be a vessel of love as well, I guess.
That's fantastic. Be a vessel of change and be a vessel of love. I mean, come on, those are powerful parting words. Those are powerful parting words. And I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for sharing your story and sharing your passion. It's been absolutely amazing chatting with you because you can just hear how committed you are and how much you love what you do, despite the fact that it gets difficult because, you know, all things do, but you can tell the love is there and, you know, you are true to your words, like being a vessel of change and being a vessel of love, because you can actually hear it when you speak and when you talk. And I honestly wish you all of the best with every single thing that you do. You are absolutely incredible. I know I only met you recently. Like, I literally sent Sandra a message to be like, oh my gosh, she's amazing while doing this interview. So I'm really excited and grateful that we had this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I can't thank you enough. And honestly, like, I'm going to stalk you until I meet you in person. And
it's done. It's going to happen. The world is open now.
It's just been so amazing to talk. And thank you again for creating this space for everybody to chat and connect and listen and engage. What you're doing is incredible. And I honestly also can't wait to see you just continue on this path of change and lead in the spaces that you're working in. And I think it's great, man. I think that it's great that we connect now as young people, as young professionals, because we get to build these relationships through our profession, right? And we don't only meet each other at the end when we are what we are. So I'm just also so excited about that we just get to, you know, like I'll always have your WhatsApp number now, right?
Yes, like you can call me up like straight, no need to DM me now. You have my number.
Yeah. Like when I see you at conferences and talking, I'm like, Anne, that was a great chat. Thanks so much.
I love this. And you know, like this is amazing. I'm sure everyone is like, girls, wrap it up now. But we're gonna talk on the side. To everybody else who's tuning in, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl and with an E. Until next time, goodbye.